Welcome to the Chill Zone.
Help us celebrate you.
On the Chill Zone.
Now we're joined by
The man whom we have been dying to talk to.
Well, Danny, I just let Danny do the intros.
Ladies and gentlemen, live and direct. This gentleman is one of the most sought for. He is someone that will reply to all of our questions on Facebook. Only on Facebook, though, because he's not on Instagram, he's not on Twitter, but just on Facebook. He has an office in which he never sits in, but today we have the chance of having him on the Chill Zone. I give you SOJ. That's his nickname. That's Mr. Sheikh Omar Jallow from the National Center of Arts and Culture. Welcome to the Chill Zone.
Welcome, Mr. Selma. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
It's good to have you on the Chill Zone.
It's my pleasure as well.
Yes. So, before we get into the entire talks of your work, first, give us a brief background on how you got yourself into the art field. I mean, I know that you were an actor before. You were featured in one of Gambia's first films. That's like a long time ago. But let us know how you got yourself into the art in the Gambia.
Thank you very much. First of all, as you said, my name is Sheikh Omar Jallow, and I was born in Banjul at the police line. My father was
No way.
My father was
You were born in Banjul?
Yes, at the police line.
Soundy, bro. No, I'm telling you, you get like the people born in Banjul all sound Salutal and you name them, all of them.
And
Wagan
actually,
Wagan.
Yes,
I like the Wagan.
Well, like
Yeah, and I was born at Banjul police line. Because my father was the bandmaster. At the police bandmaster. He was called Jallow. And he used to hold the spike, in front of the police band in the early 80s and up to the late 90s, and that's where I grew up. So I went through Albion Primary School, and then of course went to Methodist Primary, where I was joined in the choir, in the school choir.
Really?
Because I was in the church choir, because in those days I think they were using Christianity also.
Hold up. SOG, Haral, yo dangaboon choir.
Yeah.
So is there one song that you still remember from the choir? Because
Yeah, sure.
I think just
that is like something like knock like Jesus, somebody's knocking at your door.
That's actually a song that I don't even know, but that sounds nice. Okay. All right, that was a beautiful one. Okay.
Yeah, I used to sing that song. I remember very well, because we used to have a good drama teacher who was called Mr. Muhammad. And of course, Mr. Aaron. They were all by then. Reverend Ben Stafford was the priest at the Methodist Church. And in those days, we, of course, the choir, school choir, we will obviously go play in the church and the like. And I think my father did not hate that as such until in 1981, when I lost my father in the coup. Then it means we have to move from the police line and coming over to live in Serekunda. So that's how I started traveling from Serekunda down to Banjul. But I completed my school in Bakote Primary School. In the end, I went through when the SOS Children's Village was founded. So we were the first students to start the Bakote Primary School. And then I went through the Bakote Primary School. There I became, of course, an actor. In 1985 or so, or 84, something like that, the World Bank had this big project that they wanted to sponsor when they were trying to do this EPR, that is this economic, something. I cannot remember most of those terms now. But the fact is, they were trying to build schools, infrastructural schools, and there was only one project that they were supposed to build a school, a government school, a government block, but I think the government had a problem. Where are they going to locate this? And then I think Mrs. Louise Njai was the minister. So what they had to do was they bring in what we call the inter-schools drama and singing competition. In fact, it's during that time when Mam Tamsir Njai was actually put was moved from the classroom and then put at the ministry. You know, then we started the.
That's when he did the music video. You remember that music video? GRTS.
So by then there was no GRTS. This is 1980. This is 1984. I'm talking about 84, 85. So when we started that, then the official inter-schools drama and singing competition started, and I became in 1985. I was the best actor.
Yes, I know.
I was the best actor. I acted the best actor because this competition used to go all around the country. You know, you will have the regions. After the regions, then they will also come over to the main country in the main city here, in which we will have the inter-schools drama and singing competition. So I had won that 3 times. That is 1985. I won it. 1986, I won it, and 1987. After winning it,
you could compare yourself to Usain Bolt, bro. Like that's a world record right there.
I was a good actor in 1987. Anyway, I was invited by the Norwegian TV Broadcasting Corporation, that is the NRK, when they were doing the first film made in the Gambia, and that was
the first film made in Gambia was in
1987.
87.
Yes. The first research film made in here was the film of Alex Haley in 1970, but no actor or nothing was done from the Gambia. It's only the research that was done in the Gambia.
So that's
here.
the part of Alex Haley's film or Kunta Kinte's film that I don't still get. The story is originally from the Gambia. The research was done in the Gambia, but no actor, no producer, nothing
came from the Gambia here, unfortunately.
Wow.
So now what's fascinating is the fact that I think a few years ago there was an article about the fact that the story of Kunta Kinte was not actually real.
Well, that to a standard, we're still looking into that. But that, in my prestige now as a director at the National Center for Arts and Culture, in which, of course, Kunta Kinte's heritage falls under our purview.
Yes.
Yeah, there is a lot of critical thinking around with that.
Okay.
Based on the fact that some said it's a scupped up story, which actually, was very, very much fictional in a sense. And but the reality is also that there had been some writings that was actually being done by some of these oral traditions, in the community. So I think this is some of the stories that Alex Haley had tried to match with some of the stories that they have got in the archives, where he was doing his research to try to marry them up. But how the story realistically go, like it is being portrayed in the film, maybe there's
some tweaking here and there, basically.
But that is poetic experience. As a creator, of course, you will have to spice here and there and make it more realistic and the like. But there is some connotation of reality in it, because the island of Jufure, where it's located, and then the island of Kunta Kinte now, where it's located, and then the home of Kunta Kinte, where it's being proclaimed to be. There is some form of a relationship that has some little iota of truth around.
So now, moving all the way from your growth to currently the director of the National Center for Arts and Culture, how important is the National Center for Art and Culture in Gambia? Because the understanding of the layman to this could equally just make your work easier. Because at the end of the day, if someone asks me today, as Danny Constant and Mariam Akuli, what is the work of NCAC? We don't know what to say.
Good. This is interesting in the sense that I had an interesting career in terms of where I'm jumping from to come over. Mr. Juve, the former Director General of the National Center for Arts and Culture, would tell you, in 1989-90, I did a composition. And we were having this National Center program, in which I had to make a write-up. And when I was delivering my speech and all the presentation I was making, I looked at the man, I said, I want to be like you. I didn't know by instinct. I didn't know, in fact, what was his job. But all that I know is he is the one behind facilitating what I am doing. because that competition and all the programs I see, he's the he's the man. He's the big man in there. I was fascinated by what this man is doing, without even having and this I was around in primary 6.
Oh, that's my grandfather, man.
Yeah, that is I think that's Madam Kuli's grandfather. Mr. Juve.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I want to be like you. And when they were asking me actually, what do I want to be in life, I said I want to be like this man, without knowing what he was doing and what essentially. And I see what I had said, this is what I want to do in life. I ended up
exactly what you're doing right now.
Exactly. Wow. I've just followed that instinct and then follow it up all the way down to where I am today. And I remember when I was also leaving for studies too. By then he was at the Ministry of he was at the stadium. By then the NCAC was moved from there to the stadium, to the Independent Stadium. And I just finished my A levels and I started work with the President's Award Scheme just for a year. Whilst I was doing that, and he was a very close friend to Mr. Salifu Kujabi, who was the executive director at the National Center for at the President's Award Scheme, because we were the first staffs. And there also, when I was leaving, he was like, I remember he came in there, talking to Mr. Mr. Salifu, that we were leaving to the US. He did ask. I said, I had written a script at then called Gambian Nerves. That was my first film I have written. That was in 1987. That was in
You wrote your first film when?
In 1997.
In 1987.
97. I acted my first film in 1987.
Yes, that was when the first movie was actually made. Shot. Yes.
I wrote my first film
in 1997.
Nice. And that was part of the competition on the revival of the International Roots Festival. By then he was still the director. And then during that, there was one guy from Dundee, from Scotland. He was working with the National Center for Arts and Culture. When I submitted my script, they actually in the Roots Festival programming, but that was the first year, they invited playwriting competition. I won the playwriting competition with a film called, my script called The Gambian Nerves. That I was trying to talk about the nerves relations, which I have been seeing this back way for a long time. I've been talking about this back way. By then there was no much back way like it is today. That was pure imagination in those days.
Because at the time Gambians didn't need visa to go to Sweden,
and most of those things,
people could just.
But some were still going to
through
Libya.
the back way, through Libya. No, through the land. They were going through Mauritania and all that.
Yes.
And that film was basically about that. That's what I was writing.
So what happened to your script and your?
Yeah, there became a problem because at the end of the script, there is that emancipation of revolution of young people, and then it involved a coup d'etat, and which had to, relate to the showing about the military juntas.
Yeah.
I projected what Yahya Jammeh was going to do in my script. There was that brutality and that ego, because 1987 they were still fine.
True.
Everything was fine. Everybody praised them. But for me, I came at an objective writing skill. I said, no, this is not going to be fine. It's not going to end like this. I had shown some kind of brutality that the soldiers were doing in the film and in the script, and I had a problem with them. The NCAC they called my attention and said they wanted to build that film, because that was when GRTS started. That was supposed to be the first film that GRTS made. But unfortunately, GRTS did not end up, because I did not have a compromise with them in the end. What happened there was they wanted me to take that military element of the script, because it was the junta now.
Yeah,
so they did not want to risk them. I remember at one time when Mr. Juve and Bakari Sidibe they had to sit me down in a conference, in their conference room at the Independence Stadium, and say, hey, look,
young man,
I have 30 years experience, 30 years service in this country. I will not jeopardize my services and my life just for the simple fact that I just want to promote your work.
Yes.
If you can edit that part, sorry, we won't produce that film for you. We won't produce. We would go in partnership with you. I said, if that's the case, it's fine. I'm happy with that. I took my script, though I had won the prize, which was, of course, I was supported by.
How much was the prize?
No, don't procrastinate my richness then. Then you will know how soon I started having money. And
so you were a young millionaire right there.
No,
that's what Jay was, a young millionaire.
was
But
a
what
baller,
happened
he
is
was a baller.
I managed around with that.
Okay.
And that was just when I just newly finished my A levels, and I was just starting working with the NCAC, with the President's Award Scheme, and of course I was projecting to also leave to the US, and which I also had to use some of the contacts around during that film, because this was being supported by the Alexei Foundation, and I had a lot of contacts which actually helped me a lot when I got down to the States.
Right, but
to
still
make
coming down to
facilitate
the
my
work
school.
of NCAC, you've achieved and done a lot, which is amazing in your career as a young man, and growing now, heading this big institution for art. What does the NCAC's job entail in terms of entertainment in the Gambia?
Yeah, I think the mandate of NCAC is the preservation, the promotion, and development of our intangible and tangible cultural heritage. Tangible meaning museum sites, and intangible, our music, film, theaters. Those are things that those are not non-material heritages. It is the responsibility of the NCAC, the National Center for Arts and Culture, for their preservation, their promotion, and their development for the interest of the Gambian people.
Okay. So in a nutshell, you're responsible for the creative industry.
That is my department, which is my department is responsible for the intangible cultural heritage, which the creative industry is very much basic.
So why this question is, why hasn't the NCAC fought to have an independent creative ministry, for example, just creative, just Ministry of Arts? Because I feel if we had that, it will pretty much just boost the Gambia. I mean, we are too small for such not to have. I see you running your head, but why? Because I know it takes a lot for Gambians, especially those in power, to understand that creative could boost the country's economy.
Yeah, I think Daniel, maybe you just join us in the ride and the campaign to do that, because that's our prayers. Because we've seen the difference. Senegal catapulted very recently also in the creative industry. When Youssou N'Dour was the Minister for Tourism and Culture, then they decided to move tourism and culture apart with the government of Macky Sall and put culture alone and tourism aside.
Yes.
But unfortunately, the culture industry or the Department for Culture has always been carried along. We were at first under the Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports and Culture. We came again from Education, Youth, Sports and Culture. Always culture is always the last one. You see, we are last. Education, which is first, youth, second, sports, third, and culture. Then we made queries. Then they removed education. They said youth, sports again, and culture. You see, culture went to the last still. Then queries. They thought development was moving on. We moved again. Then we came to the Minister of now. You see, tourism, which was a new birth, recent birth, and then it became tourism and culture. So you see, always tourism or culture seems like a carry along. And I will tell you, up to 2018, the NCAC budget used to be 0.005%. Mr. Juve will justify this for me. I'll tell you honestly. The NCAC budget would be 0.005% of the GDP. This is what was given to the NCAC. This barely even fulfill the payments for salaries for the staffs of the NCAC. What can you do in such a situation? That is not even 1% of the budget. It's not even half the percent. I'm saying 0.00. If it is 0.05%, then you can say half of
So that means NCAC cannot implement or do any work without the approval of the ministry.
No, there is you need a budget at least. But thank God, recently with the new scheme of with the new ministry and the new minister, our budget was actually being raised to almost 200%. That is why we've been doing wonderfully last year, and this year things have really started changing tremendously in the NCAC. So it's budget related. actually, that has been the constraint with the previous government. And in the previous government, they used to put up even, let's say, 100,000 for the budget for culture development, but 90,000 will be kept at the State House. Only 10,000 will be disbursed to the NCAC. So that's why the State House will, in Yahya Jammeh's government, Yahya Jammeh will do more cultural activities than even the state itself.
True.
Because the state has only $10,000 and $90,000 is in the State House that he will use to do programs.
That actually is it. That certainly is interesting. But if you're actually just joining us right here, this is the Chill Zone on Afro Radio 107.6. We have Mr. Sheikh Omar Jallow. If you have any question about the NCAC, that's the National Center for Arts and Culture, you could actually send us a text message or call us on 1076. You've had so many fights with young people in terms of making them understand the importance of the work that you do. I mean, the work that your office does in terms of arts and culture. And I know that's one of the hardest things to do because young people want spontaneous results. We want to wake up in the morning, and as you make one call, you're making money. Do you understand? You want to make one song and you want to become famous. You want to have one traveling opportunity, and with that traveling opportunity, you are touring the entire world. And I sometimes feel sad and I feel angry, but it's also, I think it's he who feels it knows it.
Yep.
But how has it been working with, I mean, young people, for example, having to ask people to register?
Okay, that's good. I think I now that I am in the NCAC, I come to understand what Mr. Juve and Kony and those people will tell me, because you see, I have had a lot of fight.
Yes.
When I was on the other side of the fence with them.
Ooh.
Not understanding. I was not understanding what was in that little office they were sitting in. I used to criticize them. I had written so many letters. Mr. Juve and Connie, they will tell you. We had been in fact, loggerheads. The longest I have ever had in my life. I had been in crisis with them. I had left the NCAC, and there has been a lot of issues that happened between me and them until I had to go on self-exile for almost like I went on a self-exile.
Self-inflicted exile.
Exactly.
Nice.
We should try that.
I know, right?
Because I'll tell you, because the thing was, when I finished my studies in the US and then I wanted to come back home, I said when I come back, I came back home and with a project. I had an issue with the NCAC, of course, and then I wanted to continue doing my things, but it was difficult in that environment because it's still under the Ministry of Culture, under that culture division, and things were not moving. It seems like it was too slow for me. Things are not moving. What I wanted to pursue is not. There is no way that there is no sign of it coming out, and no way. Then I decided to. In fact, Lamin Manga will tell you one thing. I had made a film on revolution, I call it. And this film, when I send it,
revolution of the culture and arts, or
no,
okay.
of a country,
right?
Because most of my films are not shown in the Gambia here. When I made that film, I sent it to GRTS. By then, Lamin Manga was the director general.
Oh.
He said to me that, Mr. Jallow, I said yes. He said the film is so fantastic and watching it for us to, but not on TV. Can you send it to State House? Can you send it to State House first for them to see it?
Approve
before we can put it on TV? I said, no, it's not my role to write to the state, to the president, and telling them what I am doing. I have made my film. You want to show my film? Let's partner and show it and go out there and get sponsors. And this was because the way my films are. Whenever I write films, it's very, it's very sarcastic, or
Okay.
I make maybe the wrong tone. Maybe they take.
Okay, so basically, you're very blunt. Let's
in reality,
yes.
So I had gathered those experiences, and these are the experiences that I went into the NCAC, and now I happen to fall now on the other side of the fence. When I was there, I was throwing stones. Now I am in the place that I was throwing stones, and now people are now ready throwing stones on me. I expected that because I knew, as life says, what you do to others, social.
Or expect that eventually to happen to you.
Of course, but I knew about that.
But in terms of you as director now, what form of reform? I mean, what sort of reform are you working on? Because last week. They were. I mean, not last week. Yeah, I think last week there was a music. The music union had a congress, and a new executive was elected. But prior to that, there's been a lot of rumors of you embezzling money and not working. Not really putting the interests of young people at heart. I mean, your entire executive to your board. I mean, the Matty and the. I mean, oh my God, it's always about you using the opportunity that has to come for the creatives or for the artists or performers for your personal gain. But all of this, how and what exactly is true, and what are you doing to create a change?
Good. One of the things when I came in 2012 in March, when I came to the NCAC, the challenges were there was no artistic association that was functional at that time. It's when I came in 2012, because we wanted to move the copyright regime, because the copyright legislation had been made since 2004. Nothing was done.
And it's still nothing is still done.
Yeah. But now, no, of course, things are being done.
Okay.
In 2012, we formed, because the copyright regime requests for an apex body, which has to be the CSG, that's the Collecting Society of the Gambia. And that collecting society must be formed by the association's executives. And those associations' executives must come from unions. And those unions must be formed by associations underneath. And those associations were not in place. So I had to move my department to make sure that first we took that challenge. That was the first biggest challenge we had to take. And that is what we should not have done. That's what we had to do. Because there was a challenge that the artistic community were not coming together to form any association. Blames were going on, things were talking, people were talking, things were going bad. The only moribund group was, of course, the music association, which was kind of have been there but have not been working in and out. You've been seeing it's been fluctuating in so many areas. And there I had to take the bull by the horn and say, hey, you know what? We are going to bring in all the artistic associations under my department and form them. You don't put up pressure groups against yourself. There is nobody who does it in the world. You know that. Realistically, associations and unions are pressure groups that need to claim their right on you.
True.
But I took the bull by the horn because I could have easily sit without forming them, and I say, hey, let me enjoy it, because there is no association to look over me, to monitor me, because they are in their disgruntled problems, so let me enjoy myself. But I said no. They are necessary for my work, because if I don't have the challenge, nothing works, and I needed them as well. And if I sit there holding my hand, watching for them, it will never happen. I took the bull by the horn and convinced the office to mobilize. Then we start mobilizing the Film Producers Association, the Music Producers and Promoters Association, the Theatre Association, we had to revive the writers, we had to revive the Museum Union, we had to bring in the Visual Arts Association, we had all these associations, we start forming them and took them to Congress and put up a new executive that we give a term limit, that they gave a term limit.
Now, looking at the structure in the Gambia with the entertainment industry, we know there's little or no money being gained, from all of these sectors, the film, the theater, the music. We are all struggling here and there. The movies are being produced on individual level, taking it to the international markets. The same with music, in the Gambia, people are just making their individual efforts here and there, gaining the extra access or the extra recognition outside the Gambia. Now, what is NCSC going to do to put up structures, especially having the copyright law in place, so people can start receiving royalties and making generous money from the work that they're doing? Because the level of talent and the quality of music and videos and movies now is improving. That was what most people were complaining about. Now we're working hard towards that. Maturity in the work is coming up. So there's a lot of effort. People are not sleeping anymore, those in the art. So why is it that we still can't have a copyright law being put in place and start having royalties in place?
Yeah, okay.
This is the big question so many people want it.
Thank you.
No.
I think, Mariama, that's brilliant. As I am narrating this story, it still relates to that. Because one, these were some of the challenges that were on the ground. That is, there was no association of people, the artists, because the Copyright Act says there cannot be group collections or individual collections. It has to be a collective collection, which means there must be an apex body that must be responsible for that collection. You as an individual artist, you cannot walk into every radio and say, hey, every radio you played my music 17 times in the year, you need to pay me 17,000. You cannot do that. You cannot walk into, as a filmmaker, you said, hey, you played my film Songana for 10 times in the year, so you need to pay me $10,000. You cannot do that as an individual. So, and that cannot be done by no institution, not even NCAC. The Act says not even NCAC can do it. It has to be done by an autonomous, independent body of artists that must be constructed through an apex body, where all these associations come together and form a body called the CSG, the Collecting Society of the Gambia. So if that is not formed, there will never be collections for artists' royalties or distributions. So that was what we knew about it. So we had to put up the executives for the artistic associations. The first group, they failed in the sense that they did not put up the mandate. Of course, they did try it in some areas, but in terms of achieving what we were trying to reach at, they had a lot of problems in the sense that they do not understand. I think that was why I had a lot of fight. A lot of people were thinking that since NCAC had formed them, the government must give them money. Artistic associations or associations in normal terms, you don't expect government to give you seed money only, because you have your contribution fees that you do. You have your own projects that you develop. You had your own fundraising attitudes that you do, and here and there. And whenever government's fund comes in, mashallah, it goes along with it. But you don't sit and say, no, we are waiting for government to give us money. This was
but
the problem.
Isn't that what most of these organizations, or pretty much the associations in Gambia, do?
That is what has made the failure. And this is what I have been trying to put into their head for all these years. This is not the reality, that government has no mandate to make sure that that happens. Because these are pressure groups. Which, how can tell me the check number that government gave to the transport union to make sure that they are in place? It's never.
I don't think. I mean, they've been doing that on their own.
They've been doing things there on their own.
True.
And tell me, which government check went to the Gambia Press Union to make sure that the press union is in place? No government check went to them. So there is no association in the world, I am saying in the world, where you have to be subvented because you are a pressure group. It's not possible. It's not happening anywhere. It doesn't happen.
So in order for things to grow, in order for things to change, we need to change our perspective of how we see things.
Exactly.
So in order for the music to be to excel, the musician needs to come on board and equally begin to invest in their own organization.
And interestingly, interestingly, you know what happens?
Yes.
Most of these associations, in fact, like the Film Producers Association, even their executive members did not pay their membership fees. They don't pay their annual fees. How can you expect to bring in mobilize other artistic groups or other individuals that will have to come and pay when you, as the executives, you have not paid? Even if you paid your registration fee, you've not been paying your annual fees, and you expect to get funding from government when you, as the executives who are actually being mandated or being elected in a Congress, you are not paying your executive, you are not paying your registration fees, and you are not paying your annual dues that are due to you. How can you be able to convince anybody outside there to come and pay to you? These are the problems that we are facing in all the associations. So these are the challenges. So how can they even succinctly to even sit down again and even develop their own projects whereby we can give a support? It's a challenge. So what do you expect? Do we have to write a proposal for writers, write a proposal for film, write a proposal for theater, write a proposal for visual, write a proposal for fashion, write a proposal? My God, that's different from my work, which is also the priority
Okay.
And in fact, the final end is, apart from all that, they've not even been mobilizing their people to even come on board. And in the NCAC Act, we are also registering based on the NCAC Act because we need to create a database.
Sure.
In fact, I make more money than them because the simple fact that I call people, I do what we call rehash. Like right now, this last
No,
week.
actually, it's funny. I was actually shocked when you called me, and he called me about the Congress. Like, wait, why should the director of NCAC be the one to make phone calls to individuals? I mean, you have an entire team. You should not.
In fact, when I was calling you,
Yes.
I was sitting with my entire team. All of them were having phones. But I said to them, hey, there are strategic individuals that I want to personally call myself.
Okay.
So that they be there because they are important. You don't have to call those ones. The ones that are, to me, I had to establish personal contact in those. And whilst I was talking to you, I'm telling you, I had 3 of my staff sitting with telephones and they were on hitting the telephones and calling people. And this is what I did with all the associations. There are individuals that I always see. I said, no, you don't have to call them. Or even if you call them, it happens to be, then they'll give me the telephone. Or if they do not understand, I get myself in the work.
Okay.
Because the situation, a lot of blames come to the NCAC. Whenever people will say NCAC is not working, NCAC is stealing money there is no money. I want to clarify that. There is no money in NCAC.
But wait, let me just clarify. I mean, you equally have ears on ground in especially State House. Like, so is it true that the Indian president gave young people, especially musicians that are claiming that they gave young people money? Is it true? That's
that's good news to hear from you. I also heard it. Not officially from anybody.
Yes.
Not officially from State House, not officially from my minister or anywhere. But I also heard it.
We did pledge here when the Indian president was coming that he needs to give us some money and some help or some connections. And luckily, after a few days, we heard
that the money has entered.
We had money entered.
So
we don't
check
know
up with the Indian councillor.
So the NCAC hasn't seen the money.
No, not yet.
Okay.
We are not informed. I am not aware about it, and there is no money on our table.
Reaches your office, know that we made the pledge.
Yes.
Well,
it's from us.
Well, whatever the dictates are, we will try to implement it at that.
Congress is going on. But there's also a lot of talks on the side of Congress that, NCAC made a lot of efforts in setting dates and the venues that, people were not happy about, that they should have made their own dates and their own venues and do the whole process the way they want to do. Probably if NCAC wants to facilitate, they can facilitate. What do you have to say in relation to that?
Yeah, actually, it's unfortunate that NCAC even have to be involved in these congresses. There are some associations that have already made their congress without NCAC's even knowledge.
Okay.
In fact, it's only the very day that they invited the NCAC, we sent in the representative, and then they submitted a report.
Okay.
These are associations like the Fashion Designers Association,
which is very vibrant.
The Writers Association of the Gambia.
True, that too.
They had an account of almost about 700,000 or maybe more. In terms of money, those are serious people. They are working. They don't have to wait for the government. They don't have to wait for sitting there and saying NCAC.
And the Janet's people.
Okay, so these are groups that are working, not waiting for government. Because if you sit waiting for government, you will be still down there. Because the reality is, this is the 3rd time we are doing this. It seems like people are not understanding it, or people are just enjoying themselves with having names. Because if you are not moving, I respect one individual throughout in my entire career at the NCAC. There is only one person I have ever respect, and I will keep on respecting for the rest of my life, and that is Wagan Fai, the president of the former president of the Producers and Promoters Association of the Gambia, GAMP. He went in after a year. A second year, I called them and then said, guys need to go for a congress. And he said to me, Sheikh, man resign now. You can imagine that. He said to me, Sheikh, lead to them, I don't think we are reading between the lines. Man dama resign. I don't want to put things on my head. Do them. I have my black links. I'd rather spend my time on that when moma gënal dan xam nga lima lini because it's a waste of time ñi da nga dem meeting ken du ñew lo laccé pour fay ken du fay man munuma lolu. I am continuing. I respected that man. The day I saw him, I'm like, is this a Gambian?
He's an American.
American la?
Is this guy a Gambian?
American boy.
I remember fighting with somebody who is telling me, yeah, I can put you in Congress, 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 elect my bang.
Did they even know what Congress means?
This is the situation.
I think he thought they're taking him to TRRC.
This is what they are guessing. So this guy was telling me, Congress, and in fact, you know what? There is one of the president who once took me to police. He said, because I am organizing an illegal Congress in Alliance. He called the police and said, come and arrest all these people. They are organizing an illegal. I had that situation.
Boy.
He came in and said, this Congress is illegal. I would like all of you to disperse right now, or else I'll call the police. I said, go and call the police. He went, called the police attention. They came in. He said, we must disperse right away because the Congress is illegal. He is not in the picture. He haven't approved. He haven't. We have all those situations. They do not understand.
So now moving forward, because I think we know what the problem is. We've been talking about. I mean, we know that people are not understanding enough. They're not understanding enough of what could pretty much be a way forward.
Yeah.
In terms of our responsibilities as individuals to the organization or to the association, in making sure that we are equally benefiting from it. So both the association is benefiting from it, the individuals equally are benefiting from it. If it works, because if all of these associations are working, then the collecting society could work equally.
Absolutely.
And then there's going to be a structure put together, and we are all every party benefits from it.
Move on.
So I think now just hearing you out kind of also puts us in a different light. In order for us to pretty much be able to defend the work of NCAC, because I know some of us have actually equally sat here and just bashed NCAC for not doing work. But now that, for example, the music union currently have a new executive.
Yeah.
And
interim executive.
Yes, an entering executive, and equally all this other association. I mean, like you said, the Writers Association and the Fashion Association equally. Now, once all this is put together, what is meant to happen?
Good. In fact, by Thursday, we're calling a press conference at the National Center for Arts and Culture Museum premises for all the media houses. Television, radio, TV, anybody who has interest in music. We're getting all the interim executives and the elected executives, because there are two portfolios here. Some have elected executives, that's the ones that have done congresses and have got their quorum and went on an election properly, managed by IEC. They have their elected executive like WAC, Writers Association of the Gambia, fashion designers, all those ones, they have elected executives. We will also have the interim executives. That is the ones that have been formed in this congresses because there is not a quorum being met. Because most of the associations that we tried to do their congress, the quorum wasn't met. So if we don't meet the quorum, we disburse it. We say, okay, there is no quorum, we cannot go for elections. So we had to cancel it with IEC to come and conduct the elections, because they are the ones usually who come and conduct all these congresses elections. So we had to say, no, there cannot be no elections because we have not met the quorum. And it's the quorum that can do. NCAC can have the mandate to call for a congress for it to happen, but we cannot elect. We cannot put anybody in place. We cannot give anybody a mandate. We can't do that. But we have the right to sanction a group of people whose mandate has expired. Because this batch of group of artistic executives, they have been in place. In fact, all of them were their executive meetings were their executive mandate started June 2015 and July, because these are the times when we do mostly the executive meetings, congresses. So their mandate expired. Most of them is 2 years, 3 years. So their mandate expired since 2017, 2018. So there is no mandate that they have anymore. And among this period, they have not got even a single AGM. Not a single association had an AGM apart from the writers.
So what's an AGM?
It's annual general meeting. in which you don't do the Congress, but you come and talk to your people and tell them about what happened.
Yeah,
we have been here. What's been? It means since 2015, these executives never stand in front of their people to talk to them. They've never seen them. For 5 years, you are running an institution. You did not sit in front of your stakeholders and have an AGM, an annual general meeting, and inform your people that, hey, we are not having money from NCAC. But all that they are interested in is when there is an opportunity, because NCAC, we always forward any opportunity that comes in. For example, there is a visual art exhibition in India. We don't, because we are not the visual artists. We will have to send it to the Visual Artists Association and send them the invitation to look somebody amongst them to select and send. The same thing with film. When there is a film festival in Ouagadougou or anywhere, we call the Film Producers Association and give it to them and then say, hey, select amongst yourself and send somebody for this festival or for this occasion or for this conference or for this issue, music program in Kenya or wherever, or Tanzania, wherever it happens. But in most cases, it's within the executive that will always be shifting over. You see the same names being repeated for 10 times. It seems like there is nobody in the association except those same names.
Just executive.
So these are some of the challenges that we feel, and it's not moving. They are not having. So we took it now. We said, you know what? We have a problem. We had to move on because we are being blamed. After all the efforts that we are doing, we started with, for us, we have a thematic projects, because these are not area. Because as I said, the mandate of the copyright regime mandate is the NCAC is responsible for fighting against piracy and sensitization, of course, and then of course making the regulatory framework where copyright needs to be implemented and facilitated. That is the responsibility of the Copyright Office under the NCAC. The negotiation, the creation of the repertoire, licensing, the negotiation, collection and distribution of royalties is the Collecting Society of the Gambia. It has to be an autonomous body. That's what it said. An autonomous, independent body. NCAC has nothing in. So they have a board of directors of 7 people that must come from film, theater, music, and all the other artistic association. They need to send in their executives, one person to be part of that board of directors, and that board of directors is the group that is responsible for this mandate of the CSG, which is the Collecting Society of the Gambia. So that NCAC has only one person sitting in that board. So if that fails, how can it be the responsibility of the NCAC when we have only one person sitting in that independent board, and in fact doesn't have even a mandate? So it's not NCAC's role. So and our role is to implement project. And I will tell you one thing: we've implemented within this short period. We've implemented this music training, where today we are seeing a lot of these musicians are playing instruments. We've taken them to our archives, where most of these musicians are now taking informations like ST and the like. They are researching at the Research and Documentation Unit at Fajara. They are taking some of these these lyrics they are in those materials, in those research archives, because we've trained them. And now we're seeing a big difference in the kind of musics that are coming in. 2, we've also looked at the fact that we said, let's train some of the filmmakers. We've trained a batch of it today. Most of the the radio stations or television stations, the experts down there, they are being trained under the MPAC program. That's the Motion Picture Art Certificate. They were trained under that. And again, we've recently completed again. We said the music still, our creative art is not moving. You know what is our problem? Because we do not have distributors and marketers. We've just recently completed that one also. What is there again that NCAC is not doing, my dear?
Okay, I think this was what was lacking. Like you guys, NCAC coming
the structuring, basically.
Reaching out on media platforms to create more sensitization on the work. No, but people need to understand
but we need to understand.
So many people don't know this is part of your mandatory, or this is what you guys do, or this is what you're responsible of. All they know is NCAC is a body that is responsible to help us, we in the art, to gain certain success or to get to certain levels or to help us gain resources for us to be able to implement our projects. But if you guys come out more often on media platforms, television, radios,
to explain this,
newspapers, and explain what you do, I'm sure you will come into more understanding with the people within the art, and there will be more collective and responsible work going on between the art and NCAC, because we understand there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of questions being raised, and I don't blame people most of the time. It's because they don't know, they don't understand what you guys do. So thank you so much, SOJ. It was really great having you.
It was an eye-opener. But thank you so much, SOJ, for joining us this afternoon.
So much.
Shout out to each and one of you that were listening to us this afternoon as well. To Mrs. Manka for actually getting to talk to SOJ on our behalf, to get him on the show. But we'll get so much more of this talk. To Muna behind the camera, thank you so much. To Mariam Akoli, to Bai Supervisor, to Afrisa, your number one GSM operator. We'll be back pretty much next week. It's quite a tight one right there. On Wednesday, I'm going to a congress, which I've been invited to. It's going to be that for me, please. It's going to be interesting. So it's at Brikama on Wednesday by 9 a.m. in the morning.
For all the promoters and producers.
Yeah, so all the promoters and producers, we are going to be converging there to discuss our issues. We love you all so much. Have a nice day.
Kids, listen, baby. When the vibe is right, she makes me feel alright. When the vibe is right.